The flow in this WTF episode is available on the TDG site. Click on Power Platform Bank, and it is this flow here. Happy flowing! Hey everyone, it's Benitez here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you improvements to my flow that you would have seen in my last WTF episode. I'm going to do a quick recap of what you previously saw, and then I'm going to talk about the differences this time round, so the improvements that I've made, and then we're going to jump straight into the demo. What I showed you last time was how you can automatically update a business process flow stage from one stage to another in a model-driven app using Flow. I talked about how there are multiple end users in my grant application management solution. So we had the applicant and the external reviewer who would be interacting through Dynamics 365 for portals. And then we also had the internal reviewer who would be interacting through the model-driven app. So this is the business process flow that I showed you last time. I showed you how you can move from in progress to review when the applicant has submitted their application through the portal. And then I showed you how it could move from review to approved when you have two approvals, so one from the external reviewer and one from the internal reviewer. And I also talked about the importance of the business process flow entity record. As of right now, this is the current supported method if you want to programmatically move from one stage to another. What I showed you last time was, I suppose, what I thought was a hack or a right way of referencing the active stage ID or the stage ID of the business process flow. So I showed you how you could use the API request that was available on the docs.microsoft.com site. And once you run that API request, you are able to identify the stage IDs. And through that, I was storing it through to compose actions. So in my last WTF episode, I asked, well, my viewers, you guys, if there was any other way of me achieving this. And I heard from two people. So the first person I had heard from was David Yack. He questioned, hey, why are you using the API request? Like, why are you doing that? You can simply use a list records action and use this type of filter. So I gave that a go and that worked. And I also used parallel branches, which you're going to see shortly. And the second person that I had heard from was my colleague from Barhead Solutions, Yasir. Hey, Yasir. He messaged me saying that there was a better way of doing it, but David beat him to it. And then he also shared with me, you don't actually need to do the concatenation function in my last step in order to update the traverse path. It just happens automatically. So I tried the two things, and lo and behold, both of them worked. And this is what I'm going to go through today in this WTF episode. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. This is my flow that you would have seen last time. So again, here are my two compose actions where I'm directly storing the stage ID for review and the approve stage. And as we scroll down, this is where I'm referencing the compose action to bring through the approve stage ID as well as the review stage ID. All right, so what is different this time? This time around, I'm using a list records action. I'm going to pause here because I'm going to quickly flick over to this browser tab. And the funny thing is, it was only after David told me that, well, suggested that I should use a list records action where I was like, wow, how did I miss that? It's so obvious. And it's obvious in a way because as I highlight this here, it's actually telling you that the API request is retrieving it through the process stage entity, and it's doing a filter as well if you need it. And I was like, well, duh, I could have used it in the first time round, so thank you, David. Oh, and by the way, so David has also written a white paper for Power Apps and Flow governance. It also had technical contributions from three of my other friends, so Julie, George, and Kent. So when you can, download it and check it out. But in the meantime, let's head back to my list records action Okay, so in here, I'm referencing the process stage as my entity, and this is my filter query. So what I'm doing here is I'm making sure that I'm only returning the process that is associated to the business process flow record, and I'm only retrieving the one where it has a stage name of review. And I'm applying the same technique in here, but this time I'm only going to return the approved value. So then what I'm doing next is I'm using the parse JSON action, and to generate your schema, basically you just need to go to your previous, well, another flow where it executed and grab the output from here, and then you just copy and paste it. I'm also using the first function again in my expression because I know that I'm only ever going to retrieve one record. This is so that I avoid the apply to each from appearing later on. And I do the same for my approved list records action step. And what I'm doing this time around is I'm using parallel branching. So this is useful when you don't have a dependency on another action. So you can have the flow execute these actions at the same time because they're not really dependent on a previous action or on each other. So this is why I'm using a parallel branch method. And as we scroll down, when we head over to our update BPF record, what I'm doing this time around is that I'm grabbing the stage ID from my parse JSON step for the review stage, and in here I'm also using the stage ID from the parse JSON action for my approved stage ID. And the tip from Yasir that I had received was you don't actually need to do a concatenation. You can leave this blank and it will still capture the traverse path as well. Okay, so now let's see this in action. Those are pretty much the 3 improvements that I've made to this flow. Okay, so we are going to head over to the portal, and here's an application that I set up earlier. So we're going to submit the application. Okay, so the application has been submitted, and let's refresh my flow. And we can see that it executed. So when I go into my model-driven app and I open up that application, so previously it was in draft and now it's been updated from in progress to review, which is great. We can see that it's now showing as submitted. So that's this application over here. So what I want to show you is what it actually looks like in terms of the flow run history. So as you can see, the parallel branching worked, so it's successfully gone through them. And when we expand our switch action, and we expand this case, we can see that it successfully went through. Now, what I want to show you is the traverse path. So as you can see, even when we left it blank or empty, it still managed to work out the traverse path itself. So I thought that was cool because when I was reading the docs.microsoft.com site, it said that you needed to make sure that the traverse path was always updated. So that was a pretty cool tip from Yasir. So when you're doing in Flow, you can actually leave it blank. All right, so the next one that we'll go through is moving it from review to approved. So here's another application from earlier. So this time around, I'm logged in as an external reviewer and I'm going to approve the application. So what's happening now is that I have another flow where the flow is going to look for 2 approvals and it's going to know that 2 approvals have not taken place. So now if I refresh this, we should see that Cesar has approved it. I'm going to now open up this application. I'm going to approve it as an internal reviewer and hit save. So what's happening behind the scenes now is my other flow is getting triggered again, where it will now go, okay, based on the internal reviewer and the external reviewer status, If both of them have approved the application, then I'll go and update the status reason from submitted to approved. So let's refresh. Okay, so we can see that it's been approved. And so what's going to happen now is my WTF Flow should now be executed. And as you can see, it moved from review to approved. So let's go ahead and check my flow out. So this is the flow. And we're going to expand the switch and look at this case over here. And let's take a look at the traverse path value. We should see 3, which we have. And that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this WTF episode. So you can actually use a list records action to call the process stage in order to identify the stage IDs so that you can use them later on in your flow, and you can actually leave the traverse path field blank. I want to say big shout out to David, Yack, and Yasir, my colleague at Barhead Solutions, for actually responding. They were the only 2 who responded, so thank you. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye!
Turn up, let's go.